hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope you learn something. I hope you learn something. I hope you learn something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days.
Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Friday edition of the daily All Hat No Cattle News Rodeo. I'm your host, Hat. And so remember, on Fridays, for those of you who stick with us on Trovo and DLive and now Twitch, yes, we're broadcasting on Twitch as well, I have the best of the week's FreedomToons. There was only one this week, but I've previewed the first part of it, and it is very good and is always very timely and very funny. So you will be looking forward to that, I'm sure. Real quickly, I want to address something in the chat that Justifiable Freedom just brought up in DLive. He quotes a source as saying the Florida condo building that had collapsed yesterday morning has been sinking for years. He says, as reported by mainstream media. I had not seen that story today. I will certainly keep an eye out for that. But if anyone has any more information, please feel free to put that link in any of the 4 chats that I have going right now. I'll be very interested to follow up on it. Thank you so much, JF. All right. Another slightly lighter news day. It's the summer. You know, some things are happening, some things aren't happening. Fairly decent YouTube block today, including some insane news out of the DOJ regarding the new Georgia voting laws. I saw it coming, but I still can't believe it happened. We'll get into that in a moment. And this is just the first of many shots from them, I'm sure. Also, I have the video of one very creepy 46 asterisk answering questions by doing some kind of a weird stage whisper into the microphone several times. And just to compare and contrast, I'll play you his greatest hit from the Geneva summit when he absolutely launched at Caitlin What's-Her-Name from CNN. We'll play that too. Again, this guy's out of his damn mind, folks. Whatever's going on in that clock tower of his, it's two crows short of a flock. Let me just put it that way. All right, so let's get to the show. Oh, shoot. Hang on a second. It broke again. Hang on a second. And quality live production here on All Hat No Cattle, as you always expect. All right, there's that story. Hang on just a second so I can fix the after show. I'm going to the wrong link. Here we go. Just a moment, please. There we have it. All right. All right. Many apologies, good folks. Many apologies. All right. So, first off, why is that shifted? That's weird. First off, from the Daily Wire, before we get to the market, I have breaking news. Derek Chauvin's defense team's request for a new trial was rejected this morning. Minneapolis Judge Peter Cahill denied Eric Nelson's appeal for the new trial. I do not know where it goes from here. I don't know if you can appeal that on up. I have no idea how that works in Minnesota. It may be dead in the water for all we know. I can't say. But no word yet on any further action that can or will be taken. So we'll just have to wait and see. JF says that that was on Fox. All right, let me. I'm on Fox right now, actually. Let me see here. I see a condo story, but let's see. Just a moment. Heavy rains. No, nothing there. No, nothing on Fox.com at the moment anyway. But I will, again, I'll keep an eye out for that. I have it open, so if it updates, it'll be right there in front of me. But thanks again, good sir. Thanks again. All right, then, moving along with the news rodeo. First off, our One Babylon Bee from today. This is from their politics section. Here are the 9 most terrifying criminals from the January 6th Capitol attack. I picked this one immediately today. Lately, I've been waiting till right before showtime to pick one, but when I looked at this morning's offerings, well, I'm taking it. Right off the bat, I'm taking it. Yeah, actually, JF, I just read your chat in full. I have started going back to Fox, actually. I have started going back to Fox. I realized that my quibble with them was just that, a quibble, and it should not take away from their great reporting. In fact, now that you bring it up, it's something I wanted to mention earlier, and I did not. I have started subscribing to the Daily Caller News Foundation as of today. I just signed up for a 2-year subscription, and I'll be using them quite often. They have great stories. They really do. You may know that Tucker Carlson is one of the founders of the DCNF, so I decided to become a supporter. That really leaves Sarah Carter out in the rain right now. She's the only major independent news source I haven't started subscribing to. I'm thinking about doing it, but I just don't get to her that often. And I don't know if I have enough room in the show for her as well. But give me a few days to think about it, and I probably will. But thank you so much for pointing that out. I appreciate it. I wanted to clarify that. So let me start over again. From the Babylon Bee, their politics section. Here are the 9 most terrifying criminals from the January 6th Capitol attack. Sentencing is beginning for the insurrectionists who tried to take over our country with selfie sticks and buffalo costumes. Luckily, they didn't succeed. Here are the 9 most terrifying criminals from that dark day of January 6, 2021, a day that will go down in infamy. First, Buffalo Guy. Look at this face. Truly terrifying. Legal experts all agree that since he stood up in front of the congressional chambers, he is now legally our ruler. Bow down before Bison Man. Next, Nidden Meemaw Gunderson. Wow, terror, horror, truly the face of a criminal. Okay, technically she was storming the Kansas state capitol and not the one in D.C., but still, she's such a terrorist, her terror spreads across the whole land. Next, the guy who put his feet on Pelosi's desk. The act of a madman. The nation will never recover. That is mahogany! Next, the massive army of robot assassins who literally murdered AOC. These guys were ruthless. R.I.P. AOC. F's in the chat for the world's smartest socialist. Next, the deadly lectern thief. Whole chapters in future history textbooks will be written about this guy who literally walked into the building and walked out with a piece of wood. We're talking John Wilkes Booth levels of impact on our country. Next, the squirrel. Just look at him. He's clearly up to something. Not to be outdone, this pigeon. Dastardly. Followed by these professional insurrectionists who were having quite a bit of trouble climbing a wall. Had they succeeded in climbing the wall, the law of the land would have mandated that we make them our rulers. They would have had to fight Buffalo Guy in unarmed combat for the honor, though. And the mastermind behind it all, this deranged lunatic who specifically told everyone to remain peaceful. We are, of course, looking at a picture of President Trump, 45 himself. The article concludes, this psycho said, quote, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, close quote. Truly the rallying cry of a madman. We know these pictures are hard to look at, but it's important to remember how terrible this day was, so we will never repeat it. The Babylon Bee, everyone, putting the icing on the cake of a really, really weird week. Thank you so much, all of you. All right, now my personal conceit, the market. Bad inflation news came out today. Really bad inflation news came out today, but the market had predicted it. Therefore, it wasn't upset. Yes, folks, as long as things happen to what the market expects, even if they're bad news, the market's okay with it. This is one of the crazy things about stocks in general. But the Dow Jones was up almost a full 0.7% today, just over 34,400 per share. The S&P was up just a tick over 0.3%, closing just under 4,300. The Nasdaq was actually a loser today, fractionally down 0.07%, but still close to record territory. Gold had a very slight recovery today. Crude oil climbed almost 1%. It is now barely under $74 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate Sweet Crude. And Bitcoin is once again taken in the teeth, down almost a full 8% from its previous close at barely over 32,000 per coin. So what are you going to do? I know some people who have timed buys on Coinbase for Bitcoin, and every time that the timed buy has hit, it has been before the week's crash. They've yet to buy on the crash. It just, I don't know if they need to change their timing or what, but they were complaining to me today about it. It's, you have to laugh at how some things work out, despite your best efforts to the contrary. And I would like to welcome DebSong02 to the chat. It has been a great deal of time, dear DebSong. So nice to see you. So very nice to see you. I was just bemoaning in my mind before I went live how the summer has trended down viewership. And I understand that completely. People have things to do. It's nice outside in great portions of the country. And I would never begrudge anyone a chance to get outside and enjoy themselves. But it is nice to see old friends pop up. So very nice to see you. Yeah, gold up just a very touch, and Bitcoin down quite a bit, Scully, quite a bit. All right, moving right along. The big story really in America right now is the condo collapse. Pardon me, in Florida, technically in Miami-Dade County. I forgot the name of the actual city. It's not Miami specifically, but I can't remember the name of the town now. But the place is called Chaplin Towers, and that was the South condo that collapsed. And I saw a live update this morning from them, and the fire crews are saying they have all the help they need. So they're doing well on that. But so far, they've upped the death toll to 4, but the number of people missing is now up to 159 as of this morning. And I've seen some further pictures of the collapsed towers, and it looked like it was a very typical pancake collapse, where a portion of one of the buildings, top floor, the patio, separated from the rest of the floor. Pardon me, I'm having a hard time getting this out. The patio separated from the rest of the floor on the top level, and it just sheared off every patio, and then that sheared off the next one, and then that sheared off the next one, and they all wound up just stacked on top of each other like pancakes. And they took away half to full rooms of the condos with them. And then after that collapse, the building just to the side of it, the other tower, it was no longer supported by the portion that had just collapsed, and it teetered a little bit, and then it pancaked while also tipping over slightly to the side. And then one section was still left standing. But again, if you weren't here at the beginning, Justifiable Freedom reported that they're saying that the tower had been collapsing for years. Pardon me, sinking is the word he used. Sinking, not collapsing, sinking. So I have to find out more about that. But it's gonna take quite a while, because as the mayor of the town where this happened put it last night on Tucker. On Tucker. What you used to have 10 feet between floors, and now everything's stacked right on top of each other with no space to speak of. I have heard a report of some tapping or banging from a section of the building, but they can't determine if it's from a person or if it's just pieces settling. They're not sure yet. There was also a small fire that broke out this morning in one section, but that was put out pretty quickly. But let's just remember, there was a guy in Haiti who survived for 2 weeks, trapped in rubble from the major earthquake that happened there back in, what was that, 2005? I don't remember exactly, but it was a thing. Skullcram says in the D-Live chat, 2 millimeters per year since the 90s. Wow. Thank you, Skullcram. Thank you. Okay, ticking along. So as I teased, inflation. The May Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, known as the PCE, went up 3.4% from a year ago. Now that was in line with Wall Street estimates, but that's the biggest increase since 1992. 1992 was the last time we saw that big of an increase in the PCE. And that is basically things that you buy. Food, energy costs, things like that. And the main driver of this increase was energy. Prices are up 27% year to date. So that is a massive driver for this increase. And here's the thing. They're telling us over and over again that this is temporary. It's going to smooth out. Once the supply chains are back in line, once people get back to work, this will all smooth out. Well, here's the thing. I've got some job numbers coming up later on that don't necessarily help this line of thought. And, as I said, energy is the main driver for this price increase. And energy has not gone up because of supply line problems. The petroleum industry did not shut down at all during this COVID panic. In fact, at one point, oil prices fell to the point where they paid you $40 per barrel to take their oil. Remember that crash? I covered it last year. I think that was the April futures when it crashed, and Trump stepped in and shored up the oil prices to keep the oil system in America from collapsing. We are becoming more and more dependent on foreign energy sources. because of the Biden administration's crackdown on energy producers. Just their rhetoric regarding fossil fuels has created huge price jumps. Words matter, folks. So I am not buying the Fed's Pollyanna lying about this being temporary. If energy prices continue to increase at the rate they are, and again, just in case you missed it, oil was up almost a full percent today to just under $74 per barrel. And if you want to put that in perspective, look at oil over the last year. It was going down until, believe it or not, November 4th of last year, the day after the election. Oil was at $39.15 a barrel on November 4th. And it has been steadily climbing with a few corrections here and there ever since. Look at that. Look at that chart. So don't give me this crap about this inflation being temporary. Until you rein in energy costs, it's anything but. And again, I've got some numbers coming up on the job market in a little bit. Actually, I think I had something at the bottom of that I wanted to cover. Yeah, here it is. I definitely wanted to cover this. A separate part of the Thursday's report showed that consumer spending was flat for the month versus the estimate for a 0.4% increase, while personal income declined 2% less than the expected 2.7% decline. Those numbers had also been distorted primarily by government stimulus checks that had sharply boosted both income and spending. Okay, so again, people are getting stimulus checks, yet their personal income is declining. I thought the economy was coming back. Build back better, remember? And the personal savings rate has declined from 14.5% in April to 12.4%. So people are getting into their savings again. All right, some fun news. Every now and then I like to have a little fun news, and this is one of them. And this is, again, funny because JF and I were talking about how initially this year I had said I was going to stay away from Fox News, and I have since rescinded that policy. That was really out of spite, and I got over it. Every now and then I do something grown up, and this is just in your face CNN. That's all there is to it. You know how much fun it is to make fun of CNN. And I would like to thank JJ Leona 88 for following us on Trovo. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hang around. I'm looking at your chat instead of you. Hang around for the full show. I hope you'll enjoy it. We'll be here for another. Where's my clock? Forgot to put my clock in place. We'll be here for about another hour and a half. So have fun with us. All right, moving right along. So anyway, Fox News Digital absolutely blew CNN out of the way in multi-platform minutes and views in May. Also, Fox News Cable blew CNN away, and Fox Business blew everybody away. Fox Business numbers were way up over just a few months ago, and it's just too funny for words. Too funny for words. So let's see. Fox News Digital had 3.4 billion total multi-platform minutes, topping CNN for the third straight month. Fox News also topped all their brands as CNN settled for 2.6 billion total platform minutes. Fox News Digital edged CNN in multi-platforming views, piling up nearly 1.56 billion, while CNN had 1.54 billion. Fox News mobile app beat CNN too. My favorite part, Fox News on cable averaged 2.2 million primetime viewers in May to finish as the only basic cable channel to average more than 2 million viewers from 8 to 11 Eastern. MSNBC finished second with an average of 1.5 million, and TNT, ESPN, and Home and Garden Television rounded out the top five, while CNN failed to crack the 1 million viewer benchmark. It's according to Nielsen. The most watched program on CNN during May was Cuomo Primetime, joke of a show, joke of a human being, which averaged 1 million viewers to finish number 22 overall among cable news. CNN's most popular show finished behind 14 different Fox News offerings and 7 MSNBC programs. And Fox Business is up the Fox Business website is up 44% in multi-platform views and 41% in multi-platform minutes compared to last year. And I've been going to Fox Business quite a bit lately. I don't necessarily use it on the show, but I do look at it quite often during the day for my own edification. So great news. And by the way, I have to do this. I have to do this. It was on both Tucker and Hannity last night. Brian Stelter's stupid, pathetic book, which hardly sold anything. He tried to resurrect it. I didn't even know this had happened. That's how little press it's gotten outside of breathless Twitter bots. But Stelter wrote another, I guess, 14 chapters to his book. I'm sure they're all about Trump and Fox. And they re-released it. Remember, this book didn't sell well at all when it first came out. So he adds a bunch of chapters. They re-release it. He does a tour. Again, he's flogging this book. It's all, I guess it's all over the newspapers. They're advertising it. And it sold not even 2,000 more copies in a week. As I understand it, it sold a little over 1,700 copies in the first week after they've been flogging this re-release everywhere. Again, I hadn't seen it, so I didn't know. But then again, I don't pay attention to mainstream media. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. According to Tucker, on the Amazon rankings, Stelter's book is in the low 4,000s as far as ratings. There are some 4,300 books on Amazon that are selling better than Stelter's book. And again, after a massive media blitz and rewrite. I don't think 1,700 books covers the cost of the extra printing. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. It couldn't happen to a better guy. Skullcram writes in the D-Live chat, Stelter can write? I thought they wrote everything for him. Don't believe for a second that he writes most of his... No, pardon me, actually. I'm going to take back what I was just about to say. I thought about what I was going to say for a change. I do believe Stelter writes his own stuff. I really do. I think people do the research for him, but he writes it up himself. That's the only way to explain the absolute pablum and pap he produces every week on his show on Sunday. It's just drivel. So I'm sure he sends his producers out to find certain things during the week, but he's the one who, quote-unquote, punches it up for the show. It's the only way to explain the horrid quality of his work. It has to be due to him. But as far as the book goes, I'm sure he did write it. I really am, because I've heard about the book. I certainly wouldn't pay a penny for it. But everything I've heard about the book is it's just him whining about Fox and Trump, and how he can't do better. I think the best summation of this was from Tucker last night, when Tucker said, your show's been losing ratings hand over fist. I'm putting my spin on it. Stelter's show's been losing ratings hand over fist for a year. Since January. January 10th was the last day CNN was getting high ratings, and it's been falling off a table ever since. And so he basically said to Stelter, he never uses Stelter's name, by the way. Tucker never pronounces Stelter's name. But he said to Stelter directly, maybe you should get out of media. Get out of media. It was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. I loved it. Moving right along. So, speaking of books that are selling well, this really ticked me off immensely. As we all know, if Amazon doesn't like the cut of your jib when it comes to something on their platform, they will kick you off without any reservations and with little to no explanation. They will just, boom, you're gone. That happened to the book When Harry Became Sally, probably the best book title of all time. It also happened to, I forgot her name. I had it just a moment ago. The woman who wrote the book about the trans kids phenomenon. Oh, darn it. I had brain damage, for those of you new to the channel. My brain didn't get enough oxygen for quite a long time last year. My brain literally shrunk. So certain things don't work as well as they used to, and memory is one of them. But it was a great book. She was all over. Amazon canceled the book. First, it was canceled by Target, I believe, and it sold out. Anyone who did have it, every copy was gone within hours. They had to re-release the book. So many copies it sold. I have a copy of it myself. I also have a copy of When Harry Became Sally. And I try to support these authors as best we can. But anyway, if Amazon didn't like your book, even if it had been out for 3 years, like When Harry Became Sally, suddenly they'll kill it. But other titles, they're more than happy to promote, even if they put a positive spin on mass murderers. I'm not kidding you. Look at this headline. This is by Ian Howarth from the Daily Wire. There's a series of children's books out there called Who Was, and then insert name of famous person. Who was Winston Churchill? Who was Ben Franklin? Who was Harriet Tubman? I guess they're immensely popular. They're supposed to be pretty well written. Unfortunately, it seems that some of the people who write these have a real penchant for sucking up to people who kill lots of people and terrorize entire countries. Let me get you the details here. Two of the books in question on Amazon are called Who Was Che Guevara and Who Was Fidel Castro? Let me read you excerpts from both of those. First, from Who Was Che Guevara? Viva la revolucion, the Amazon description begins. Find out how Che Guevara, a doctor turned communist leader and much more than a face on a t-shirt, ended up paying the ultimate price for his cause. His legacy, as the author of the Motorcycle Diaries, a champion of the poor and a force for change in Cuba, is both personal and political. Amazon includes the first chapter of the book titled A Brave Boy. Okay, for those of you who are not entirely familiar, Che Guevara was a mass murderer. He was part of Castro's revolution, and he was quite fond of rounding up people he determined to be political dissidents, the intelligentsia, etc., just like in every communist revolution, people who could remember the past and compare it to the present communist structure, and he killed them. Firing squads, personally executed dozens of people. He died in, I believe it was, I think it was Colombia or Nicaragua. He was trying to lead a communist revolution there, and government forces overtook him and shot him in a fig grove, which is, in fact, an interesting tie-in to the Steven Crowder band T-shirt, Socialism is for Figs. That's actually how that T-shirt reads. The asterisk is for the I in figs. YouTube yanked Crowder's monetization and got his T-shirt banned from the internet. Luckily, he found another vendor. In fact, they have their own Crowder shop now, which I highly suggest you patronize, if at all possible. So now, who was Fidel Castro? Quote, when Fidel Castro died on November 25th, 2016, many people around the world responded with mixed emotions. Learn all about the man who shaped Cuba for more than half a decade. That should read more than half a century, by the way. I don't know why it says that. Continuing, after overthrowing Fulgencio Batista in 1959, Fidel Castro became the leader of an island country only 90 miles away from Florida. While in power, Castro outlasted 10 U.S. presidents and turned the small nation into a one-party state with influence over the entire world. Called a leader by some and a dictator by others, Castro defined not one, but several eras in world politics. Okay. Here's one of the things that Castro did while he was shaping his country. This is a quote from the Inter-American Human Rights Commission from 1967. On May 27, 1966, 166 Cubans, civilians and members of the military, were executed and submitted to medical procedures of blood extraction of an average of 7 pints per person. This blood is sold to communist Vietnam at a rate of $50 per pint, with the dual purpose of obtaining hard currency and contributing to the Viet Cong communist aggression. Continuing to quote, a pint of blood is equivalent to half a liter. Extracting this amount of blood from a person sentenced to death produces cerebral anemia and a state of unconsciousness and paralysis. Once the blood is extracted, the person is taken by 2 militiamen on a stretcher to the location where the execution takes place. Amazon, folks. I'm telling you, I haven't bought a book from Amazon in months. There are many other places you can go, mom and pop bookshops all over the internet. You may pay a little more in shipping. It may take a little longer to get it, but trust me, the fewer dollars you can send Amazon's way, the better. By the way, speaking of buying things, you guys know one of my superpowers is spending other people's money. My Raycons die too damn quickly. These are the everyday Raycons. One's in my ear right now. I only wear one at a time so I can hear myself talk. They seal really well. Their ability to amplify sound is excellent, by the way. The sound is good too, but these everyday ones, they just do not have the staying power. So I went to check their website today to see if I could upgrade to the better the upper tier. And I know they're expensive, but they're having a 50% off sale today. Today's their kind of like preview Black Friday sale, and everything is half off. So a pair of headphones that would have cost you $140 are now $70. And I'm telling you, if you're looking for a really good pair of wireless earbuds, I don't think you could do much better. They are not a paid sponsor of mine. I have 0 paid sponsors. Every penny I make comes directly from you guys. But I'm telling you, these are the best earbuds I've ever worn. Once they come with different sizes to fit the size of your ear canal, and once it fits, it's in there. It's in there. I have never had a better set of headphones in my life. I just wish the battery power was better, but the ones in the upgrade that I'm getting, the battery power is about 8 times longer. So can't really screw it up. Skullcram says in the D-Live chat, who is Genghis Khan? It sounds like Jeopardy. All right, moving right along. So as I teased earlier, part of the reason that we're seeing such a poor increase in the economy and such an increase in inflation is the fact that people are having trouble filling jobs. I saw earlier today, I believe there are 8 million outstanding positions to be filled right now in the United States. And again, that number reflects 50% of small businesses being closed forever because of government shutdowns during the pandemic, just in the United States alone. And there are still 8 million jobs waiting to be filled right now. There are many states who are still paying people the extra $300 a week, federal unemployment insurance benefits. Those are not due to run out until September. And this article here from the Daily Caller News Foundation by Thomas Cantanecci. Just 14 states had positive job growth in May. Folks, 14 states added jobs in May. Out of how many? 50. Or as Obama said, 58, I believe, was what Obama said, 58 states. Yeah, Scully, I'm getting to that. By the way, the asterisk goes after the 6, not before the 4, just so you know. But yeah, I will be getting to that. I won't read it out loud so I don't tease it too far. But only 14 states had positive job growth in May. And 5 states had the majority, the plurality, I should say. California, Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, and Colorado accounted for 38% of the new jobs. That's 400,000 jobs for those of you keeping score. %38 out of 5 states. And as I just said, job vacancies hit a record high in April, surpassing 9 million, according to another Labor Department report. So, yeah, we've got Biden right here, as a matter of fact, giving Skullcram due for being prescient yet again. This is Biden yesterday taking questions as only Biden can by being a fool, an absolute fool. People got mad at Trump for yelling. I would rather have someone submit a forceful presence behind a podium than this kind of creepy crap. Look, here, let me just play it.
I got them $1.9 trillion relief so far. They're going to be getting checks in the mail that are consequential. I wrote the bill on the environment. Pay them more. This is an employees bargaining chip now. What's happening?
He's insane. He's absolutely insane. Who the hell does that? He's been doing it for a while now, but yesterday was the worst. The absolute worst. I don't get it. What is he trying to do here? That is a stage whisper. And some actors can't pull it off at all. It sounds too flat. There are other terms for it. I haven't taken an acting class. I remembered some of the stuff from something I read years ago. I can't remember now. But stage whispers are tough. Let me just put it that way. Stage whispers are tough. And he's just doing some kind of creepy, passive-aggressive whisper here. It's almost like he's saying, I don't want to yell at you, so I'm going to belittle you by whispering the answer. It's the more I think about it, the more I see it as an attack on the reporter's intelligence. By basically saying, you aren't worthy of my full voice. So I'm just going to whisper it to you. Maybe you'll get it that way. You idiot. The more I think about it, I think that's what he's doing. I think he's literally talking down to the press. And I don't use that word often. Now, compare that. Oh, but let me real quickly. By the way, that bit about pay them more. Employers are offering huge bonuses compared to the rates they paid during the full booming economy under Trump. Remember, these guys weren't having to pay $500 for people just to apply for a job. Some McDonald's franchises are paying $1,000 for people to show up for an interview. $1,000 to go to work at McDonald's. Because they can't get anybody to come in. If people were so willing to work under 2018 and 2019 rates, why are they suddenly too good for a job now? Because of all the money the government's handing them. There's no other explanation. Except some people now feel that they're too good to go to work every day. They've been able to sit home for a year plus. And they got used to not putting on good clothes and walking out the door. So you could say a part of this is also due to people just becoming lazy. And they're being paid to be lazy. I saw a stat today that since May, one state, I can't remember the name of the state, it's a Midwestern state, has seen what they think are about 500,000 bogus unemployment claims. Just since last month, 500,000. People are sponging off the government like never before. And he's saying pay them more. The Slapfish restaurant chain in California, that guy's offering $50 an hour for dishwashers. Yeah, $50 an hour to wash dishes at one of his restaurants. And he still can't get people. He can't stay open all week because he doesn't have enough staff to cover all the shifts for a 7-day week. He has to give people time off. And it's not just him. It's happening all over the country. Small to large businesses. The exact same thing. And he's whispering, pay them more. What a fool. What an effing fool. Skullcram makes a good point. I did not mention this, and it is an excellent point. So allow me to amend my remarks. Skullcram says in the D-Live chat, I did hear a restaurant owner say his employees found better paying jobs while his business was shut down. That is an excellent point. Thank you for making that. I had forgotten that. That is true. A number of people did do career searches during their downtime and were able to find better fits for their jobs. But still, it's not everybody. That's a good portion of people, but it's not everybody. There are still millions of people who aren't working right now that could be working. But that is an excellent point, Skullcram. I do appreciate your mentioning that. Thank you very much. Once again, the chat doing the heavy lifting here on the channel. Okay, so there's Biden whispering at you because you're an idiot. Okay? Now, let's back up to, let's see, where is it? Oh, shoot, do I not have it? Hang on a second. I gotta pull this up. Let's see, Biden yells. Oops. I can't spell. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Here we go. This is, I'm hoping there's a video here. Yep, here we go. Good, good. All right. This is Biden when asked by Kate Collins at the Geneva summit last week. He's walking off stage. Remember, he wouldn't have a press conference with Putin, which is normally the thing when you have a meeting with another world leader. You have a joint press conference. But Biden wouldn't do it. He said something about only wanting to appear in front of the free press, which was a total lie because we all know as soon as he walked out on to this, for some reason, outdoor event, it was hot out. He had to take his jacket off. Everybody's sweating to death. Could have had it indoors, plenty of room, but for some reason he had to have it outdoors. He walks up to the podium, and what's the first thing he says? I don't want to get in trouble. I have a list of people I'm supposed to call on. Yada yada AP. Again, proving they pre-process his questions and the people who will ask them. This is all in complete complicity with the press. Can you imagine what would have happened if Trump had demanded questions ahead of time? They would have set the Brady Room on fire. So Caitlin Collins shouts out a question at Biden as he's leaving. Why are you so confident Putin will change his behavior, Mr. President? And Biden launches on her. Watch this, just in case you forgot.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident he'll change behavior. What do you do all the time?
Okay, in case you couldn't hear that, he said, I'm not confident. What the hell do you do all the time? All right, continuing.
When did I say I was confident? I said what I said was, let's get it straight.
Let me crank up the audio. That's too low. Hang on a second. I had it turned down earlier when my speakers were too loud, and I forgot to turn it back up. Let me back it up here. Let's start this over.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident he'll change behavior. What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin? Right?
You don't understand that. You're in the wrong business.
Is the summit with China next?
Yeah, folks. Okay. First of all, that was a decent question for a change from a CNN reporter. And I use that term loosely. I have to when you're talking about CNN. We all know that Caitlin Collins is a complete hack. So for her to actually ask a decent question is news in and of itself. But you saw the incredible aggressiveness that Biden showed towards her. The finger alone. The finger. If that had been Trump, Caitlin Collins would have probably driven a semi through the White House gates and tried to ram it up the stairs into the Lincoln bedroom. There's a visual for you. And all Biden had to say to get out from underneath it was that he was sorry he was such a wise guy. But then he attacked the press again as he was quote-unquote apologizing. This guy is absolute Looney Tunes. I'm not a doctor, but I've been around sick people a lot. I have a number of years under my belt in medicine and through various jobs. I was an EMT. I was an emergency room tech at a level 1 trauma center, third shift, so I saw everything. And I was a surgical technician. So leave the surgical technician aside. The other two jobs, I saw emergent medicine. I saw people at their worst. And aggression without provocation is a definitive sign of mental collapse, of dementia. I'm not a doctor, but it is a definitive sign. Look it up. Unprovoked aggression is a major sign of dementia. And we have seen this from Biden time and time again. Remember last year when the reporter asked him if he had taken a cognitive test. And Biden lost his shit and said, "Why the hell should I have to take a cognitive test? Did you take a test before you came on the air to see if you're a junkie? Huh? Do you use cocaine?" I think that's a verbatim quote. And to Charlemagne the God, well, if you have a problem deciding whether or not you're going to vote for Trump or me, then you ain't black. Not only overly aggressive, but incredibly racist. And I've got Biden stepping his foot in his mouth again later on regarding a couple of things from yesterday, including calling Latin Americans Latinx. I'll give you the numbers on about how many Latin Americans use that term, and trust me, it ain't many. But this guy needs help. Skullcram says in the DLR chat, actually, he did take a drug test for employment at the news office. That's, I'm sure. I'm not sure about that, to be honest, Skullcram. I'm not sure. I know manufacturing jobs and a lot of other jobs require drug tests, but I don't know about news, especially that guy's outlet. But I could be wrong. But that is a good thing to keep in mind. I appreciate that. Moving right along. Okay, so now the people that this nut job have appointed to run this country, they're all insane and losers, every damn one of them. In fact, I've done a pretty good job of avoiding covering appointees from this administration because they're all so awful. It's not even worth covering. It's so pervasive. And one of the worst is Merrick Garland. This guy almost became a Supreme Court justice. And love him or hate him, Mitch McConnell kept that from happening. And seeing the job that Merrick Garland is doing right now as Attorney General, I'd say Mitch McConnell did all of us a very big favor. A very big favor. Garland is constantly coming out and saying that the worst problem facing America right now is violent white extremism, even though he's yet to name one violent white extremist group that has been causing mayhem. Not one. He won't even define white extremism. Meanwhile, Portland is having riot after riot. People in New York City who looted and set buildings on fire last year, almost all of them are having their charges dropped, just like in Portland. The federal charges against the Portland insurrectionists, Ray Kimbrell got me properly set on that term. The Portland insurrectionists, almost all of them are getting their charges completely dropped, or they're getting deferred adjudication with a complete a complete arrest wipe if they complete the terms of the agreement. So not only are they not going to jail, they're not even going to have an arrest record. Yet we've got hundreds of people who merely walked into the Capitol on January 6th, and they're all being held in the same jail in D.C. with no bail, and the vast majority of them are charged with misdemeanor trespassing. Again, I don't use this word often. They are literally being held without bail in a D.C. jail away from their homes. All of them were extradited out of their home cities to D.C. Some of them were in solitary confinement. The first sentence was handed down yesterday by Judge Royce Lamberth, who's presiding over all the January 6th riot cases. And a 48-year-old grandmother of 5 got probation and a $500 fine for trespassing. But Lamberth said, don't expect all of them to be like this. The FBI and the DOJ have all the time in the world to prosecute these people, but they've literally said they can't prosecute any of the crimes from the Northwest from last year because they don't have the resources. Oh, same in New York City. They don't have the resources to prosecute the hundreds of people who looted millions and millions of dollars of merchandise out of stores and set them on fire. They just don't have the time. Oh, gotcha. You want to have a revolution, folks? Have 2 sets of laws. Have 2 sets of justice. That's how revolutions get started. Moving right along. Oh, I didn't even cover the story. Ha! I got so wired up I didn't even cover the story. The reason I'm so upset is Merrick Garland and the DOJ are suing Georgia over Georgia's new election laws. I guess they've never heard of the 14th Amendment. According to Assistant Attorney General Kirsten Clark for the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, quote, the Department of Justice will use all the tools it has available to ensure that each eligible system can register, cast a ballot, and have that ballot counted free from racial discrimination. Laws adopted with a racially motivated purpose, like Georgia Senate Bill 202, simply have no place in democracy today. That is crazy talk. The big part of 202 that the left set themselves on fire over was voter ID. Stacey Abrams got Major League Baseball to pull the All-Star game and the All-Star draft, or pardon me, the baseball draft from Georgia because of the voter ID provision in Bill 202. And just 2 days ago, Stacey Abrams on TV said that voter ID is a good idea and that they've always supported it. You know why? Because a poll came out that showed that 80% of Americans, including over 80% of blacks, think voter ID is a good idea. Only 13% of blacks didn't like the idea of voter ID. 13%. And this was not a Rasmussen poll, if I remember correctly. So the Democrats just changed directions midstream, reefed their sails, hard a port. But the DOJ is acting as if what Stacey Abrams said 4 weeks ago is true. And voter ID is racist. Where the hell are these people getting their law from? This is insane. And this is a direct violation of states' rights. It says in the freaking Constitution that state legislatures have the right to determine how elections are held. Not state judges, not governors, state legislatures. And it sure as hell doesn't say that the federal government has any right to get inside of it because of voter ID. This is a major overreach by the DOJ. Again, they don't have any time to prosecute people who tried to kill federal law enforcement officers and burn down a federal courthouse. Because, of course, as Merrick Garland said during his confirmation hearings, since it happened at night, it's not insurrection. Because the court wasn't in session. Therefore, no harm, no foul. Swellcram says Stacey thought she could convince people when realizing she could not. She flipped. Yeah, that's exactly correct. But obviously, and Kirsten Clark is a nut job. If you followed any of her confirmation hearings, you'll know that she's an absolute nut job. The fact that she was confirmed just goes to show how having Democrats in charge ruins everything. Now, I do want to quote Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger from Georgia in regards to the lawsuits. Quote, "This lawsuit is born out of the lies and misinformation the Biden administration has pushed against Georgia's Election Integrity Act from the start." Oh, sorry, this is Governor Kemp who said this. Forgive me. Continuing. Joe Biden, Stacey Abrams, and their allies tried to enforce an unconstitutional elections power grab through Congress and failed. Now they are weaponizing the U.S. Department of Justice to carry out their far-left agenda that undermines election integrity and empowers federal government overreach in our democracy. Now, quoting Raffensperger. Pardon me, Berger. I hate when people do that. And I did it twice now. It's B, not P. Raffensperger. Pardon me. Quoting Raffensperger, the Biden administration is doing, quote, the bidding of Stacey Abrams and spreads more lies about Georgia's election law. Continuing the quote, their lies already cost Georgia $100 million and got the president awarded with 4 Pinocchios. It's no surprise that they would operationalize their lies with the full force of the federal government. I look forward to meeting them and beating them in court. And he will. He will absolutely prevail. The DOJ has literal no jurisdiction over state election laws when they are not violating any federal statute, and no Georgia election law is violating federal statute. Look at all the other election laws in this country that require voter ID. There are many Democrat states that require voter ID. DOJ isn't going after them. This is malicious and selective prosecution, and it is against the Constitution. Georgia needs to be able to sue not only to have this case dismissed, but they deserve to get their court costs back. I think they should be able to sue the federal government for the costs they're going to incur to challenge this absolute massive slap in the face by the federal government. And hello, Zero Cool 527. Thank you for joining the Trovo channel. Thank you so much. All right, moving right along. We're going a little long on YouTube today, folks, just so you know. We already have. This won't take too long. Once again, Biden being Biden. He was asked about vaccine hesitancy among minorities. And he proved again how much of an idiot he is. Because first of all, instead of using the Tuskegee experiment as a reason that blacks might be less than likely to get a vaccine produced by the federal government, even though I know Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, they're not technically federal government, but this was obviously a federal program. Operation Warp Speed was definitely a federal program. And we know that because of the Tuskegee experiment, which in case you don't remember, was a long-term, a decades-long study of black men who were followed after they contracted syphilis, and they were not treated. They could have been given penicillin at any time and stopped the syphilis from spreading. Instead, they were followed over decades to see how the disease progressed. And syphilis can ultimately kill you. It can eat your brain. Look at Al Capone's signatures from before he went to jail and after he got out of jail. Al Capone died of tertiary syphilis. The Tuskegee experiment wasn't even exposed until the 70s, and it started in the late 20s, early 30s. But Biden, instead of mentioning the Tuskegee experiment, he mentions the Tuskegee Airmen, the all-black fighter group that fought in Italy and protected our bombers over the Italian to southern Europe bombing runs. By the way, the only fighter group in the U.S. Air Force in World War II to have never lost a single bomber. Not one. No other fighter group did that. And Biden doesn't say Tuskegee experiment. He says Tuskegee Airmen. And then concerning Latin population not wanting to get vaccinated, and right now, according to stats, 38% of Latinos have received at least one COVID shot, compared to 46% of whites and 33% of African Americans, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. Biden says Latinx people, that's a quote, Latinx people don't want to get vaccinated because they'll be deported. Folks, how many of you were asked to prove your citizenship if you got vaccinated? Ever? You go to the hospital. You say, I can't pay. In Spanish. They treat you. They don't check your records. They don't ask for papers. They treat you. They write you a bill, and then they cancel it and let you walk away. So not only is he using a stupid word that means nothing, but he's comparing the entire Latino community, to illegal aliens. By the way, in case you're wondering, this article, by the way, is brought to you from the Daily Caller News Foundation by Michael Ginsberg. 3% of Latinos use the term Latinx to describe themselves, according to a 2019 Pew survey. Less than 0.5% of Latinos over the age of 65 used the term, and only 23% were familiar with the term. And this is a survey of over 3,000 Latinos in December of 2019, with a margin of error of just under 3%. Listen to this. The sound might be off initially. I'll fix it.
For people. There's a reason why it's been harder to get African Americans initially to get vaccinated, because they used to being experimented on. The Tuskegee Airmen and others. People have memories. People have long memories. It's awful hard as well to get Latinx vaccinated as well. Why? They're worried that they'll be vaccinated and deported. So look, from day one, something...
I can't listen to him anymore. He's a racist. I'm not saying he's a racist on purpose, okay? He's 80 years old, basically. He joined the Senate in the 70s. He was elected to Senate when he was 29. He had to wait for his birthday to happen before he could, between when he was elected and he was sworn in, to be eligible to be a senator, because you have to be 30 to be a U.S. senator. He was literally the youngest U.S. senator ever at the time. So he's only known politics. He's only known the white boy club. And so I'll forgive him for his insane racism, because it just comes naturally. He grew up in it. He doesn't know any better. It doesn't make it right, but it at least explains it. But Tuskegee Airmen? Latinx? Seriously? Seriously? Debsong02 says in the D-Live chat that the shots Gates gave African people had HIV in them. I had not heard that. I had not heard that. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Swelkram says, I don't even show ID, but I do get my medicines at that pharmacy. There you go. All right, moving right along. I'm going to touch on this real briefly. I have to talk about this because, believe it or not, folks, the Biden administration actually did something right. Credit where credit's due. They did something right. The DOJ is backing the Line 3 pipeline. We talked about it just the other day, how there are a number of Native American businesses that are directly tied to the construction of the Enbridge Line 3 pipeline through the route from southern Minnesota into the tip of Lake Michigan at Superior, Wisconsin, or Lake Superior, pardon me, Superior, Wisconsin. And insane environmental groups have been suing to stop it. And the Justice Department Wednesday filed a brief in the District Court for D.C. to back up the building of the pipeline. Which begs the question, though, if they're okay with Enbridge Line 3, what was the problem with Keystone XL? I'm not saying they're consistent at all, because they're not, but at least they did something right. And it turns out, I didn't know this, but a few weeks ago, turns out they also, Biden's DOJ, 46 asterisks, DOJ, backed a drilling project in Alaska. I did not know that. In fact, this article is the reason that I subscribed to the Daily Caller News Foundation, because I had not seen that anywhere. And that's big news. This article was written by Varun Hukeri, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, back on May 27th. But they backed the Willowmaster development plan for the project to drill in part of the National Petroleum Reserve. The plan aims to produce more than 100,000 barrels of oil a day for the next 30 years. Murkowski and the other Alaskan senator backed it. Again, I don't believe it happened. All right, again, like I said, we're going long on YouTube today, big time, but I could not cull any of these stories, and I really had to bring this one to you. This is from the Post Millennial, another site we subscribe to here, written by James Anthony. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Canada had a system, for lack of a better term, the residential school system, where they took what they call First Nation children from their areas, from their government-provided areas, and jammed them into schools to raise them to be good little Dominion subjects and Canadians, to basically strip them of their tribal identities. This happened until the 70s, folks. Canada. Remember the people who wagged their fingers at us for racism? Decades of basically stealing Native children and force-feeding them Canadian and Dominion history and other things. And a little while ago, there was a discovery in rural Saskatchewan at a residential school in Kamloops, British Columbia. Pardon me, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. In Kamloops, British Columbia, that's different from Saskatchewan, 215 unmarked graves, really remains of children, not graves, remains. 215 separate sets of remains of children were found at a residential school in Kamloops, British Columbia. And now, another school in Saskatchewan found a total of 751 unmarked remains of children. Children! And these are just two of the residential schools. There were many more. Let's do the math. That's almost 1,000 children out of two schools. Skullcram says we need to replace the Alaskan pipeline. It's old and worn out and out of date. Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah, I never even thought about that. Thank you for that, Deb Song. I'm going to have to look into that. I'm going to have to look into that deeply. I appreciate it. But this is very, very scary stuff, folks. And you know, they're looking for funding. The First Nations groups are looking for funding to search other residential schools for remains. And this could just be the tip of the iceberg. I get chills thinking about this story. I really do. I mean, physical chills, literal chills, thinking about this story. This is scary stuff. And what do you do? What do you do? Typically, Native Americans, both First Nation and American Indian, aren't too keen on digging up bodies. But do you want to leave them on the grounds of an old residential school that possibly starved them to death or beat them to death or just neglected them somehow to let them die? Would you leave them in that place? Could you consecrate the ground? Could you have a ceremony? Could you mark the graves somehow? I don't know what they're going to do. And they don't know what they're going to do yet. It's all up in the air. And again, this is just 2 of those schools. There were dozens of them, as I understand it. All right, YouTube. I'm sorry to end it on a down note like that, but that is all we have for you today. If you want to continue with the rest of the show, and remember, we will be doing the week's best FreedomToons today at the end of the show. So please feel free to join us on DLive or Trovo. You can see the URLs there on the screen. I'm also on Twitch now, if you care to watch it in high resolution. But that is up to you. And now remember, I'm by the way, I'm going to have to back out from tomorrow night with the Trump event in Ohio. I can't do it. I know it's last minute, but I have to take some time off. I just can't stay in the chair all day, so I'm going to have to beg off. But July 3rd, 7 p.m. Eastern, on this channel, on YouTube, DLive, Trovo, and Twitch, I will be showing the evening part of Trump Fest from Florida. But, as soon as Trump takes the stage, YouTube's off. I'll tell you right now, if Trump says anything about the election that YouTube doesn't like, they're going to yank my channel for a week. Guaranteed. And I don't want that. And besides, I want more people on DLive, Trovo, and Twitch. I don't want a lot of people on YouTube. YouTube demonetized me. If you're in DLives especially, you can participate in the microtransaction system, and every now and then I can hand stuff back to you. It's win-win. YouTube doesn't allow that. So please consider joining us on DLive or Trovo. Twitch, I don't know. I don't know what's up with Twitch. I really couldn't say. But if you're in the Trovo chat, you actually earn points as you sit there. With the DLive chat, the more you are active, the more points you earn. And the busier the chat is, the more points I can hand back. All right, YouTube, I shall see you perhaps Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern. If you care to, tomorrow morning, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, we will continue our Far Cry 5 playthrough. This morning was brutal. I should have selected easy mode instead of normal mode because I got my butt literally handed to me time and time again in one of the early missions. I think it took 20 tries. I'm not making this up. I think it took 20 tries to get through it. I was constantly getting blasted. But hopefully tomorrow will be a better day. And if I'm up to it, we may actually play tomorrow afternoon starting at 2:30 Eastern. Same for Sunday. All right, YouTube. Thanks so much for being here. Be well. God bless. Happy trails. Bye-bye.